The Challenger then as now is ripe for bolt-on upgrades. And what we're going to be doing today is adding a cold air induction kit and a strut tower brace to this Challenger. Now this is a beautiful Challenger. It's got the 5.7 Hemi motor and a wonderful custom paint job by the guys at Mopar Underground. Why do we add a cold air kit? You got to remember that most new automobiles are designed to, well, appeal to people who have a very conservative sensibility. That means people don't always want to hear wide open induction roar. So engineers designed the air intake systems to be kind of quiet and wide open. Well, performance enthusiasts like us, we don't mind the sound of our engines. We want to hear that engine. So the baffles that would be ordinarily seen inside of an airbox are not present in the aftermarket of the Mopar box we're going to put on the car. So what I'm going to do without further ado is remove the stock airbox from this 5.7 Challenger RT. Well, generally speaking, you can see anywhere from 5 to 12 horsepower, and keep in mind that computer-controlled cars, quite often you've got to drive the car for 50 or so miles for all the sensors in the computer to catch up with the change you've made. So it won't fully blossom for about 50 or so miles. However, when it does blossom, you will notice the difference. Now with this off, it gives us access to the airbox and the areas of the engine we have to access. This is the Mopar replacement airbox. We look inside, it's got a nice healthy volume, and we don't see any sort of chambers or fins or anything in there to tone down the induction roar. That's because we want that. There's a large plenum. Inside of this is where the air filter will live. I'll show you that filter now. This is the Mopar filter. This is conical, and there's a lot of surface area on this. If you took this and unraveled it, you would have a whole bunch of square feet. And what you need here, and what this does, is basically keeps particulates from getting into the engine, dust, sand, things like that, because once those things get into the engine, they get inside the cylinders and start to degrade the ring seal. And once that happens, you get bad emissions, you lose power, and you'll wear your engine out. So what I've done here, there's a metal collar, which is part of the kit. You screw it onto the plastic case, and now I will put the air filter inside of this. The filter is now inside of the lower case. The metal sleeve is on, and I will now lower this down into the front of the car. As I stack up the parts under the hood, this is the air intake tube. This goes from the throttle body on the front of the intake manifold to the air filter housing. And we do have rubber plumes, or bellows if you will, on the front and the back, and they allow this to move with the engine without rattling and causing shakes that might otherwise find their way into the car. So it's a fully engineered system, doesn't require any drilling, any holes, nothing. It's a complete bolt-on deal. As you can see, we're doing this in probably about 20 minutes time. In your driveway, you can do it in about the same amount. Nice, easy way to get some extra power and efficiency. This is the air inlet temperature sensor. This is transferred from your existing air cleaner unit into the Mopar item. You don't want to bend this or drop it or get it wet. You unpull this, you pull this out of your stock air cleaner and stick it right into a grommet, and this goes into the air inlet neck. And again, this is the air inlet temperature sensor. This is what tells the computer what the air temperature is, and it helps it to calibrate a fuel-air ratio for best performance. So we'll transfer this, and it pops right in here, and just plug in the stock harness, and this part is done. I've got the box, the filter, the neck, and the air inlet temperature sensor all handled, and this is the final thing I'm going to install. It's not a snake. This is actually a rubber seal. This now allows that filter to take big gulps of cool air, and of course by sealing the box from the underhood area, we prevent hot underhood air from getting sucked into the intake tract. I'll snap this in place on top of the filter housing, and then we'll go on to the strut tower brace. Well, this is a high-quality steel tube. It's mandrel bent, and it's a MIG welded too. Nicely, I believe these are probably laser-cut flanges, and this is a rugged piece. Now, this does require 2 holes to be drilled. Aside from that, it's a pure and simple bolt-on installation. Let me get started right now. First step, of course, the strut towers have plastic snap-on covers that help just helps these things to stay pretty. And of course, these are adjustment points for the alignment. We're not changing that. We're just going to loosen these nuts. There are 3 holes drilled into the plate, and you basically just remove the nuts, set this down on each side over the struts, reinstall the nuts. But before we tighten anything down, there are 2 through bolts that have to go through the strut brace. So don't tighten things down until all fasteners are in position, seated properly, and then we'll make the rounds and tighten them down. These are basic hand tools, like I said, with the exception of the drill required. I think we have a 10mm socket, a 14mm socket, an Allen wrench, and again, just simple stuff. And again, this does not impact your vehicle warranty. And in a moment, we'll do the crowning touch on the cold air system, and that is the sticking on of the emissions approval sticker. Mopar goodies are all designed for use on vehicles, and they're legal for street use unless otherwise stated. Well, I got to say, I have pretty much just wrapped it up. You know, we've all been standing here talking with each other for, 20, 25 minutes. We've installed a cold air kit and a strut tower brace in that period of time. And in doing that, you know, we've transformed this car into a deeper breather with the cold air kit, and by triangulating the strut towers with the firewall, we now have a car that will do a better number on the skid pad, and we've improved to 10. Again, all of this within a half an hour.